it will be as successful an event in terms of just the benefit of people getting together and meeting others face to face that have KLS, sharing information, and really kind of engaging the room in the discussion. So as I said, ask questions. We're really here to share information. We will have speakers throughout the day, but we really want to, we're here for you. And so the questions that you have and the information that you want, we're here to So as I said, the foundation's been able to expand and really, I think, has been an incredible success when we look back at the goals that we had. This slide really is just kind of showing the memberships increasing, but the activity in general, the various television and media coverage that we've done, whether it's the U.S. or in the U.K. A few years ago, we were the top story on Yahoo's homepage. And I think we got 100,000 hits that day on our website. Just incredible considering, where we came from, where, to find one other patient was a challenge. So that effort over the years, it just doesn't happen. I would really like to kind of thank the board members over the years. The board members are really our volunteers. The foundation is a volunteer-based organization. There's no paid staff that we have, and so all the hundreds and hundreds of hours that get spent a year in reaching out and talking to new patients, the media, interacting with the research groups, doing the administration, all those things come from their efforts. So while the success has been incredible, it also brings challenges, right? One of those is, and we'll talk a little bit later, my dad will give a presentation on our latest initiative, is managing a database. So you see over here that we have 1,600 plus contacts at this point. There's challenges in trying to keep that information fresh. Many of you have gone in and put information in. Some of those entries are now 15 years old, right? Some of those we got on paper, and then the board members entered those in by hand. So we're past that at this point, which is great, but trying to keep that information refreshed is definitely a challenge. Keeping a database of physicians, especially in the US, to pass on to people so that when we get a call from somebody in Montana who has KLS and is wondering if there's a doctor in Montana, we're able to at least kind of give them the closest one that we know of. That becomes a challenge because there's not very many doctors that have seen KLS in the U.S., and just because they've seen a KLS case doesn't necessarily mean they're a great doctor to work with. Galen Grossman is going to talk a little bit later today about how you should interact, or our suggestion on how you should interact with the medical community, and kind of the importance of that patient and doctor relationship. But that becomes a challenge. The other thing that we face is that some of you are new to KLS, and you want to learn every bit of information that you can, right? You're sucking it up as fast as you can find it. Others have been dealing with KLS for a while, and so they don't necessarily need all of that information. Really what they're looking for is anything that's new. So that's also been something that we've struggled with. At this point, we have our website, which is a lot of resource information, a lot of kind of archived information. And so if you're looking for that kind of baseline, that's the best place to start. We do try to also keep kind of the latest and greatest news on the front of that page for you if you do check periodically. And then the Facebooks and the Twitter accounts and the other social media is also where we tend to blast kind of the latest and greatest news. So recently you may have noticed, and there's a couple of screenshots up here of our Facebook page and our web page, newly refreshed, kind of brought up in the current century from that $50 website that we started with, and that's really been the efforts of Alana Wong for the most part over the last year. She's going to talk a little bit later about kind of her experience in joining the KLS board. If we're trying to continue the efforts of the foundation or even expand kind of what we can do as an organization, it's really going to take that next generation of people to get involved in the KLS kind of community and the foundation efforts. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. So switching, just give a quick kind of discussion of research and not specifically on what the research is. We'll have our keynote speaker, Dr. Arnold, here talk in a few minutes. And then also later, Donnie Farber, another board member, is going to give a research update on some of the things that we funded, provided some initial funding for, and kind of where that is. But maybe just talking to you kind of as a KLS community, about kind of the research effort. Obviously, KLS is rare, and so there's a very small sample size. Because it's rare and there's a small sample size, there's not a lot of money in helping KLS patients. So when you talk about where typical funding comes from, big pharma, drug companies, they're not rushing to spend millions of dollars to find the cure for KLS so that they can cure thousands of cases. That's just not normal. And so, as I noted, one of the key kind of focus areas of the foundation was to get that research going. So one of our founding kind of board members, Barta Farber, also our fundraising chair, Donna White, who's another one of our board members, has done a number of annual fundraisers. Some of you in the KLS community have had your own fundraisers, and those have been very successful over the years in terms of raising money. Since the foundation was created, we've raised about $500,000, and during that time, we've taken that money and about $300,000 to date has been given to various researchers around the globe to start kind of that initial kind of seed funding. So hopefully from that seed funding, the plan or the intent is that they do some initial research, get enough people interested. Short break. Thank you. So that we get other organizations, right, government entities in particular, to fund some of that research. And so far we've been very successful in that. Now, you can see I mapped out some of and Donnie will talk a little bit more in detail about the research that's going on. But I guess one of the things that I did want to highlight is I think sometimes there's a misconception about how research works out in the general population. Unfortunately, the TV shows and the movies where you see it happen, the hero invariably rushes out, they find patient 0, and the cure, they rush back to the lab, there's some spinning lab equipment and computers that are shown, and then usually it's a yellow serum that they come up with, and they start inoculating people right away. I've been watching Last Ship recently, and that's a really good show. I really like it. But unfortunately, it doesn't tend to happen that way. It's a painstaking process. Probably more in the trial and error, probably more error than success. And that can be very frustrating for those that are looking for a cure and for answers. Those that have provided a sample and are wanting to know, hey, was my sample used? Where's the research? I haven't heard anything. It's been a year. It's been 18 months. And again, it all kind of comes back to the way research works. It is a slow process. I don't know if anybody attended the hypersomnia conference yesterday, but there was a number of breakout sessions. The science got above my head relatively quickly as a public accountant. I didn't follow all of it, but you definitely got the sense and in terms of the process that happens. Part of the delay in kind of hearing back results as well is to do more research, the researchers need funding. To get funding, they need to publish results. And to publish results, they need to keep all of their work confidential until they have the chance to publish it. So while it is sometimes frustrating, I would just ask you to have patience, kind of bear with the process. And also I would encourage you, and you'll hear throughout the day, there's ongoing research projects. Please offer to get involved. I will also say that we do get feedback occasionally, right? It's a very small community. There is a range of KLS kind of symptoms and cases. And because of the nature of the research that's being done, the sample sizes are very small. The researchers often are looking for a very targeted group to do that research on. And so while your sample may not be used in the current project that's going on, it doesn't mean that it won't be used in kind of future projects. So reaching out, filling out the questionnaire information, providing samples is an incredibly important part of us eventually finding cause and cure. Test.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Better? Okay. Okay, so I'll go back to the beginning and start again. Please let me know if we have any more difficulties. So where do we go from here, right? This slide actually is a slide that we used at one of our board meetings this year. And really in talking about, as a board, where do we go from here? Clearly the most visible piece, the outward facing piece that everybody sees is the website and the Facebook page. You know, and when we make a mistake there, it's very visible and we get told about it very quickly. Thank you. Again, we're a volunteer organization and we learn. So we've gotten, I think, better at that as we've gone on, but it's definitely a trial and error on our part too. However, the slide in our discussion was also to kind of just remind us as a group, and so I'm sharing with you, that there's a tremendous amount of effort that goes on behind the scenes. Whether that is the kind of just some of the administrative things. Karen Krieger is going to talk about our UK, the group that she helped found. And we were talking at dinner last night of just the fact that they've been a little more successful in raising money this year, and it may or may not require some additional forms that need to be filled out and registration that has to happen with her government entity. And she was talking about, well, we've raised just a little bit more. It doesn't mean that we have money to go ask a lawyer and spend money with a lawyer to try to figure out what we need to file. And so all that stuff ends up on kind of the back of the foundation members. And things like filing tax returns, keeping financial records, you know, interacting with various media groups and research groups. All this takes a lot of time. So Alana's going to talk a little bit later about kind of her experience. She's been championing KLS for 6 years or so since she was a teenager. And recently, in the last year or so, has formally joined our board. It has been a tremendous asset. So if you're out there and you're passionate about it, whether you have a little bit of self-doubt about, hey, can I really help? Absolutely you can, and we'd be glad to kind of have your help and your support. So that's my plug, and Alana's going to give a little bit of her experience later. So just like to kind of share a little bit about kind of the board and who's doing what on the board. Many of the board members are here today, and so you'll be able to see them and interact. First, Dick Maier is my father. He fills the role of our chief financial officer, handling the financial statements. He's a CPA like myself. I don't do tax, by the way. If you have tax questions, he's the guy. He'll also be up here later talking about CORD, which is a patient registry that is going to take what used to be, again, paper and data entry from Excel and move it into the 21st century and really kind of connect with researchers. So he'll be up here later. My mom, Cindy Maier, is our support chair. Many of you probably had phone conversations with her, many of the parents out there, emails. She's usually first point of contact when you reach out through KLS, info@KLS, or through the website, and spent hundreds of hours kind of answering those emails. Back in the day, we used to have kind of the KLS hotline. I think people use the phone a little bit less today, but that's still around and a very important part of our foundation in terms of kind of that client support. Varda Farber, who I mentioned earlier and has been incredibly successful raising funds, is our fundraising chair. Unfortunately, she is not able to attend today. Lori Holler-Schiller is our media chair, so she takes a lot of those first calls from media sources, and when they're looking for a patient to maybe do a story or a documentary, She interacts there with those folks. Her son has KLS, and she's going to talk a little bit later this afternoon kind of about that parent experience. Donnie Farber is here. He's our formal secretary, along with taking board minutes, which sounds like an easy thing, but it is not. He's also been an incredible fundraiser. You've probably seen his picture in his muscle shirts, running through the streets of New York, raising funds and doing things. He has been an incredible addition to the board. Also been KLS Free for 10 years now. So there are, again, those success stories. Karen Krieger, who I mentioned earlier, is our board member from the UK. And has traveled over here. She also is one of the founding members of KLS Support UK, and I'm going to bring her up in just a minute here to kind of give you a little bit of overview of what they've been doing across the pond there. Alana Wong, we talked about, is our social media chair, and she's going to be here later up here later to talk. Aileen Grossman is a registered nurse and also has been an incredible addition to our board. She's going to talk later about kind of the caregiving experience, interacting with physicians, and then kind of facilitate a conversation and a Q&A session about maybe medications that are out there, possibly, and things maybe you've tried. And then Donna White is a mother of Ryan, and unfortunately Ryan passed away. He had KLS, and she had a fundraiser for the last 9 years. I think the upcoming year will be year 10 of the Run for Ryan, and has just been an incredible support of the foundation.